All right. Welcome everybody to the second session of the Digital Advertising Academy through the Lisbon Moxie Hub in partnership with Dream Local Digital. We're excited to have Shannon Kinney here tonight with us from Dream Local Digital to share some of her long experience and expertise around growing your market through effective digital advertising. And this is brought to you by the Lisbon Moxie Hub, which is a co-working and entrepreneur hub under development in Lisbon. The idea is to create a physical space for folks to learn and grow their business, but also a place where folks can access resources and training and expertise, just like we're doing tonight. So really excited to keep it going and to have Shannon here, and a big thank you to our funder, the Maine Community Foundation, who's made this possible. So with that, we'll turn it over to Shannon and get started with our second session.
Great, thank you, and thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this particular topic. And just in case you guys can't find Brett, you're going to get a copy of today's deck as well as a recording. And here's his digits right there. I want to make sure you know how to can connect with Brett. But thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Our purpose with this course is to help you in creating your marketing plan and sort of increase your online marketing and advertising skills. And each month you're going to receive a copy of the presentation, and there's a homework assignment. So I am going to ask how people did, and I'm available for anybody that has any questions about last month's, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But there's a lot of great information for you. And if you have questions, let me know. So my email address, which I'm going to put in the chat window, is pretty straightforward. It's shannon@dreamlocal.com. And if you have any questions in between the sessions where you're trying to think about how all of this applies to your business, or you're trying to put some of the things that you're learning and talking about into action, you'll be able to just message me. You can also hit me up pretty much on any social media channel you can find me. And I answer messages on all of them myself, other than the Dream Local ones, which I don't answer all of those ones myself. My team and I do together. But if you have any, let me know. So with that, I want to sort of think about our session last week. Or last month, excuse me, we talked about a lot of things, right? We talked about some marketing trends, offline, like in the real world, and online, and how they translate together. We talked about inventorying all of your assets, like your business cards, your signs, like everything that you have, to see if they match, and make sure that they're all sort of supporting each other. And we're going to continue that effort tonight by looking at your online presence and giving you tips to make sure you can optimize your online presence. And we talked about looking at your brand promise. Remember the exercise we went through with Harley Davidson as the example, to help you sort of get a sense of what your brand promise was in a framework of some aspect of a marketing plan for yourself. So those were the things that we talked about last month, and that we had talked about working on over the course of the month. So it's okay if everybody's shy, but if anybody is open, does anybody have questions about how that went, or want to share anything that they learned or found when they were going through those exercises, or any questions that came up? We have some shy folks. Okay, that's all right.
I will be perfectly honest, I did not get to do any of that.
Okay.
We had a death in the family, so that kind of took a little bit of my time. So, but this is on my agenda to work on over the weekend. So
great. So take a look at last month's deck, which Brett sent out to everybody, and just, I would say, Wendy, pick a part of it that really resonates with you and feels like it's going to help you move forward, and just do that. You know what I mean? Don't try to do everything, but either your brand promise, potentially that one slide, which is, I can't remember what number it is, but it's towards the end, and it's got the Harley Davidson example. If you just do that alone, I think it's really going to help you get some clarity as for everything else that we have moving forward. And for all of you who didn't get a chance to really tackle putting together an overall plan or anything like that, just look at the outline of the plan and see, are there any aspects of this that I really think are important to me to think about over the next month, and the brand promise side, and I think you'll be good. Great. Okay. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to talk about optimizing your online presence. And by the way, I am available, like, I want this to answer any questions that you have. So I'm going to give you general content on your website, what Google My Business is, and why it's the second most important thing. And for some of you, the most important thing, even over your website, social media, and you don't have to be everywhere, but which ones are the right ones. We're going to talk about some review sites, commerce sites, other profiles, and making sure that your online and offline are supporting each other. If you have any questions about these as we get going, let me know. But I have one surprise for each of you, that over the course of the next week, I'll be emailing each of you individually. And if I don't have your email address, like if you didn't sign up with your email address, or if you're not getting Brett's emails, make sure that you message either Brett or I and let me know. But I'll be sending each of you a report that some software that I have that will do an assessment of your website and give you any hints about anything going on in your presence. And I've run reports for everybody that's registered, and I just need to do some analysis on them and send you each a personalized note. But this month you will each get a personalized note with a software report on what we saw about your presence online. So we're going to talk about it today. If you have questions, hit me up, and then you'll get a personalized note from me, and that will also give you a chance to read it, reply, and let me know what questions you have so we can have a one-on-one conversation over the course of the next month about your online presence. And then the second thing we're going to talk about today is creating your Dream 100 list. And this is a concept that can be applied in a couple different ways. One is, how do I sort of grow my audience and have more people know about my products or my services or my business? And the second one is, how do I get more people to actually, like, more customers, individual customers? And so I'm going to talk to you about how to take a concept called Dream 100 and apply it both to growing your brand awareness, or the amount of people that are seeing your stuff, and then the amount of people that are buying your stuff. So I like to talk about presence, but I need to make sure I sneak in some revenue generation in there too. So we're going to talk about that towards the end today. Then I put together a couple of inspiration points or resources, just a couple of articles, like if there's a particular topic you want to read more about, I have a couple good articles for you, and then a homework assignment for this month. So the first thing we want to think about is your presence, right? And making sure that you're ready. And so really there are, these are the basic things that we look at. The first one is your website. Does your website work really well on a phone? And you should look at your website on a phone and make sure that the experience is one that you think is a good one. And we'll talk a little bit more about mobile in a minute, but it's a hugely important part of the experience for a couple of different reasons. Second thing is it searchable? And if your website is more than, say, 4 or 5 years old, and there's a chance it's going to fail on 1 or 2 of those. In fact, today I talked to a lawyer who we built his website for him in 2016, and it was a great site in 2016, but it's failing on all kinds of key metrics now because a lot has changed since then. So if your website is more than a couple of years old, there may be a challenge. I have done audits for all of you. So if either one of these things is a red flag for you, the audit will pick it up and I can share with you, hey, here's what it showed. Here's a couple of things that can be done to help set you up for success. So those are a couple of big things. Then the other one is, can it grow with you? Is it doing what you'd like it to do? The lawyer that I met with, he had a whole new line of business that wasn't even represented on the website. So there was a lot about that he wanted to take a look at, and he hadn't even looked at his own website in a long time. So your website's where you start. A second thing you want to look at is your social media channels. If for those of you that are using social for any of your business, which I know is a lot of you, when I looked at everybody that was registered, there's a lot of you that are doing quite a bit on social. Make sure that it's up to date with your hours, your address, a good description of you, because those descriptions are how you show up in search engines or within that platform itself. And make sure that your branding's really good. And I've got a funny story for you. So I was doing an audit for a business, and then I went to pull up mine, and our image and our cover photo in Facebook had been broken. And so it happens to me too. And so just about 10 minutes before we started, I'm emailing or going back and forth in chat with my marketing person who's redoing our cover photos and our branding for Facebook. So, it happens to all of us, and I need to make sure I'm auditing mine on a regular basis as well, doing my homework. And hours of operation are the top searched thing for a small business on Google is hours of operation. And on Facebook, if you're retail during the holidays, it becomes hours of operation. So make sure those two things are updated, your Facebook page, if you have one, and your Google My Business page, which we're going to talk about right now. So Google My Business is your business profile on the biggest search engine in the world. Like, think of it as your storefront, your sign, it's even more important than your website. And the success of how well you show up in search can be just as easily determined by your Google My Business channel as your own website. Now, the good news is it's free and it's not hard to fix. And so I'm going to walk through with you how to take care of your Google My Business channel today. As well as how to find out if your business is claimed or not. And hold on, I'm going to just bounce out of the presentation for a quick second so I can put a link in the chat. This link will, if you search for yourself, it will tell you if you have claimed your Google My Business or not. So I'm just putting that in the chat. Okay, so Google My Business. This is for anybody who calls Dream Local Digital. If they ask us to help them with their social media or their website, we do Google My Business, whether they ask for it or not, because it's one of the foundational drivers of how well you show up on search. You should claim it. And we post content on Google My Business every single week for every single client as part of our work with them, because it works so well. And so I'll walk through that in a minute to explain a little bit more about what that is. The next thing to look at is just, can I be found in search? So if you've looked at your website and you've sort of taken an inventory of how it's doing, go to Google and search for 4 or 5 different keywords or phrases that you want to be the answer, and see if you're showing up. And if you're not, then that gives you a signal about your website. And I'll walk you through a couple different ways you can fix that if you're not showing up well in search. And the audits that I'm going to run for you will give you very specific reasons why that may or may not be working for you. So you'll get an assessment from me about your own websites. If you did not give Brett your website, or if you're concerned I don't have your website, we'll find out when I send you a note, because there were a couple of you that wasn't something I could do very well. And then if you are sending email newsletters or anything out to your clients, maybe they're thanks for your order, they could be thank you pages, anything that you have sending email out, make sure that you take a look at it and make sure that it's easy to use and works well on a phone. So those are the key areas of your online presence that we want to focus on today. And the reason I started with mobile devices is 54% of all digital orders, like when people are buying online, they're buying on their phones 54% of the time. And 70% of all traffic online is coming from a mobile device. And I know that seems crazy, right? Like a lot of us are using laptops right now, or your desktop. I have both here, but I am on my phone all day long, and I'm sure many of you are as well. And so if your website does not show up well on a mobile device, Google won't even return you in a search result. So let's say I search for digital marketing agencies in Rockland, Maine. It'd be kind of hard for Dream Local not to show up. Let's say I search for that. If Dream Local doesn't have a mobile friendly website, they won't return Dream Local as an answer. And it's because if somebody is on a mobile device, they want them to have a good experience. They want the search, the most relevant answer. And if the website is not mobile friendly, they don't show it up. So you could be missing 70% of traffic if your website is not friendly with a phone. And as I said, you could check that out yourself, just take a look at it and see how it's performing, or the audit that I'll send each of you will tell you personally how your website's doing there. The other thing I want you to think about when it comes to mobile is how easy it is for somebody to use the phone, use your website on a phone. A great example is I was recently, this was a couple of months ago, I was recently looking for a bowling place near me. I had a couple of kids here in the house. They were underfoot, they're going nuts, they're bored, and I've got to get them out of the house. And so I decided I'm going to take them bowling. There are two places near me. They are in opposite directions, and each one's about 20 minutes away. And so the first one, when I was searching on my phone, had a mobile website. I was like, oh my God, that's awesome. They had built a special mobile website. But when I looked at it, I'm scrolling and I'm in the car, I'm looking, no phone number. So they were smart enough to actually take the steps to make sure they had a website that was specially made for mobile. They forgot a phone number on it. And these are our phones, right? And the second one didn't have a mobile friendly website at all, but their Google My Business page came up and I could just hit the call button and call them. And so that ended up being the direction I went in. So when you think about a phone, you not only want to make sure it's friendly and it works well on a phone, but that it's easy for people in that you're thinking of, you don't have a huge video or something that makes me scroll 4 times before I can read anything. So when you think about designing your website, I always look at the new designs my designer sends me on the phone first. I don't look on my great big beautiful screen where of course it's going to look great. I look on the phone first, and you should do the same. For those of you who don't have commerce or a shopping cart on your website, I had a couple of you ask me questions at the end of our last meeting about e-commerce and shopping. And so I added a few different things to today's presentation to touch on commerce itself. There are easy options for WordPress websites. We've worked with Shopify, WooCommerce, and BigCommerce. Make sure that you really add a full description of your products, like really describe the whole thing in great detail. It'll help the customers as well as search engines make your fulfillment really clear in as few clicks as possible. And as I talk to each of you over the course of the month about how your website's doing, if you have questions about like Shopify or shopping or just other features on your website, you can email me. We can either set up a quick call or I can email you back and get you answers. So the key thing I want you to think about is it should be as few clicks as possible. And that's largely because Amazon has really made it so easy for people to shop or to find something that it's really created a new gold standard that people don't want to go through a lot of hoops to get to the end result. And so make sure that that's part of your thinking as well. And good photos of your products are important. Any recommendations for cross sells or upsells, like, oh, you just bought this hat, these mittens go with, or this scarf goes with, and make sure everything is really clear and easy for people to use. We spent, I think we did a 6-month project with Olympia Sports where we took 3 steps out of the buying process, redid a lot of their product descriptions, and they have thousands of SKUs. And also changed the way they talked about shipping, and it increased sales 30% doing that. And for a company of that size, that's a huge amount of money. And actually they were bought. They became so much more profitable. They were acquired after that project. So if you are selling online, some of those tweaks will make a huge difference. All right. Does anybody have website questions before we stop, before we move on to Google My Business? Okay, well, that's cool because we'll have a chance to talk to you about each of you about your individual sites when we email over the course of this month. So as I said, Google My Business is really important. Every business that has a physical address should have a Google My Business page. And if you have a home-based business, it does need a physical address. Like even the customers that we work with that are national, we have to pick a physical address. And 93% of local searches, like if somebody's looking for pizza near me or pizza Rockland, Maine, Lisbon, Maine, plumber, then Google My Business is what's fueling the vast majority of that. And each of you have seen it, even if you didn't know. Oh, sorry, my phone, I keep saying the G word and my phone is like, what do you need? Each of you have seen it. I'm going to show you a couple examples. The link that I have in the chat, you should look up your own business and it will tell you if you don't come up, it means your Google My Business has not been claimed. And so the first thing you want to do is claim your listing. And the link that I put in the chat will help you do that on your own for free. And usually what they're going to do is either call you or email you physically mail you a postcard to make sure that you are really the owner of that physical address. If that doesn't work, then they may ask you for a power bill or a lease agreement, something to show that you actually, that physical location is yours. And it allows you to claim your listing. If you happen to have multiple locations, like we have one car dealer that has 22 locations, that's a different Google My Business page for every single physical location. And as I said, for those of you who don't have a physical location, or then either you can use your home address, or if that makes you uncomfortable, we have worked with some businesses to like rent a post office box and use that as a physical address, but there has to be one tied to a GMB page. You want to make sure that it's your accurate business name. So don't use abbreviations or keywords or anything to sort of shorten your name or nickname. This is, think of this as like your business license, because this is how you're going to show up on search, and it will become the gold standard of how your business is listed online on a variety of sites. Make sure you add in your website address or URL, the categories that suit your business. And if you have time, you can add a lot more information like photographs of your physical location. And this is one for, we want to do one, Brett, for Moxie Hub, because we couldn't find Moxie Hub when we got there, didn't know where it was. And I ended up like going into the pub to find out, because, and whereas GMB would have told us, so we need to do one for you over the course of this month. You can also get appointments booked directly through it. People can call you, like I called that bowling alley. I can get directions and it will bring up maps and directions. And so, you know, if you use anything other than Apple for directions, Google My Business is powering GPS, it's powering searches, it's powering a lot of cars actually that use GPS systems. So make sure you've got your actual physical address in there, local phone number, and any photos of your business should be on there. And here's the example of two different ones. So one that hasn't been claimed here, you can tell it hasn't been claimed because it says suggest and edit, do you own this business? The words own this business, so they're like, hey, is that you? And if you searched at the link I got you, it would have come up unclaimed. And then here on the right, here's one that's optimized, and there's photographs, there are reviews. It allows you to get directions, go straight to the website. You can see the reviews. There's a description here of it. Hours of operation, as I said, top search thing about small businesses in what they call local search. If anybody's searching for local, either using near me or specific geography, hours of operation are the top search thing. Phone number, and then you can also have Q&A and a lot of other features in here. So make sure that it is claimed. And the other thing I can tell you is if I was searching for an electrician, in Lisbon, Maine, the ones that have claimed Google My Business pages will show up on top. The ones that don't have one claimed may not show up at all. So make sure that this one's important. And here's another example. If you happen to do maps where you're looking at a map in Google, this is the difference in how the Google My Business pages show up. So you can see directions, save, hours of operation, that they answer really quickly, reviews, and more. So Google My Business will be an important one for you. It's the least sexy, but probably most foundational free thing that you can do for your business over the next month. So let's set a goal for that. Okay, so the next thing I want to think about is social media. And this is really like, where are your tribe, right? Like, where do your customers hang out? And this is an important one because it may not be the favorite social channel that you have. Like just today, I did a thought leadership session with 22 media companies. And we had one media company, I did an assessment of him live in front of all the other ones. And his favorite social network is LinkedIn. And I get it, right? Like, he's selling LinkedIn. He likes to talk to other professionals, but his target audience that he was trying to reach are on Facebook. And so I'm like, Paul, you're going to have to get a Facebook account, right? Like, it's going to have to be part of what you do. So when people ask me what's the best social network to be on, my answer is it's where your customers are. And it doesn't mean all of them, and it doesn't mean all of them at once. It just means, where are your customers? So you want to go where they are, and you want to tailor your messages for them as well as for that channel, right? The way that you speak on Twitter is very different than the way you would speak on Instagram or Pinterest. And even how many characters you can use, whether to have images or not, it's all different per channel. So you really want to tailor your experience for them. One of the biggest questions I get in sessions like this is, hey, I use a tool that automatically posts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter all at once. Isn't that great? No, it isn't great. It's very rare that you can have the exact same post on multiple channels the same way. At minimum, you would change the characters, change the count of how many words, depending on which one, and probably you change images on each one. The one time I'll tell you that you can do the same is, we often post whatever's going on Facebook, we'll put on Google My Business, at least once a week. So if I was posting about tonight's event, I would probably do the same post on Facebook and then throw it into Google My Business, just so we would show up in searches about events for online marketing in Maine or online marketing in Lisbon, Maine. And the last thing is, go where you can effectively maintain it. So I would never tell you to start a channel. Starting a channel and then not keeping it up is worse, I think, than not being there at all, because it shows somebody that you're not on top of those things. And that's not the kind of message you want to send about your business. So where your customers are, speaking in the language of the site, that you can keep up. So that really will help you answer how many or which ones are the right ones. But I have some data here for you, and there's quite a bit of data in the next couple of slides about each social channel. And don't panic, you're going to get a copy of the presentation, so you'll have a lot of this data, because this is kind of a small one. But I tried to get a couple of different opportunities for you to see sort of how each of the channels break down, who's on them, and what are some of the purposes. Facebook is by far the largest, and YouTube is a close second, then Instagram. So those are your three big ones in terms of how to use them. And they're all a little bit different. Like LinkedIn, for example, is really all business to business, whereas Facebook and Instagram tend to be business to consumer driven. TikTok is very young, right? The ages, they use 18 to 24 here, but I'd say that really the average age of a TikTok user is 13. So they skew a lot younger. Instagram, 95% of their users are under 35, right? So if you're looking for a lot of disposable income, they have affluence, but younger affluence, and Facebook might be your play. So I have this here for you as a reference. And then just to give you a few more specifics on each channel, Majority of businesses, more than 80 million, are actively using Facebook business pages. I meet with Facebook twice a month, every month, about our client base and what's happening and what we're seeing, because we represent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Facebook and Instagram pages. And even in my call yesterday, they were sharing with me that they're still seeing growth, which I just find fascinating. Like, I thought it would have hit a plateau at some point where businesses would have already been there, but it continues to grow. Instagram, which they own, Facebook owns Facebook and Instagram, as well as Messenger and WhatsApp, are all within the Facebook family. They've crossed the threshold of 1 billion active users. And as I said, they're under 35, but upwardly mobile. And so if your target audience is very artistic and affluent, they might be they could very well be among the users that are over 35 on Instagram, but the majority of them are 35 and under. And it's a very different, it's a very visual platform that requires a totally different marketing effort. Because Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same company, it's the same paid ads in the background. So if you buy ads, not just your free pages and your free content, if you buy ads, you can place them on both at the same time. You can run one ad campaign on both, and you can run ads on Instagram even if you don't have an Instagram page. So if you want to reach that target market, but you don't want to start a channel and keep it up and try to stay in front of very easily distracted Instagram users, then you can place ads instead of having a channel. Twitter is really a quick communication platform, and it's also a great discovery platform. Like, you can find out about information anywhere in the world using Twitter. Much like YouTube, it's global and it's also broad-based. There's not as many privacy settings. And so, you can find information from all over on Twitter. It's excellent for customer service. And so we do a lot of listening on Twitter. A great example is I have a car dealer in Kenosha, Wisconsin that we work with, and they were trying to increase their service business. And so we listened on Twitter for anyone within 15 miles of that particular store that had any combination of keywords like broken down, transmission, engine trouble. We had like 5 or 6 different sets of words that we listened for. And we found one person who posted on Twitter that they were broken down on the side of the road and they had a picture of like smoke coming out of the front. My team responded and said, "Hi, it's Shannon at Pullman Ford. Would you like, do you need a ride? Do you want us to come pick you up, or a tow truck?" And the person responded like, "Wow, I didn't buy my truck at your dealership." We responded, "No problem, no problem. Would you like a tow truck? We'd be happy to take you anywhere you would like to go." And he ended up saying yes. They took him, when they asked, "Where do you want to take the truck for service?" He said, "Well, let's just bring it to your store." Got the truck worked on and fixed. It was a cracked radiator. And he was a construction company owner that had a fleet of 26 trucks. So listening on Twitter helped us develop a relationship with a new potential customer for that car dealership. And that's just an example of how Twitter can be used for customer service. LinkedIn, as I said, business to business powerhouse. 50% of all decision makers, like people who are decision makers at their business, 50% of LinkedIn users are that decision maker. So it's not just everybody that works at a company. The CEOs, the top folks who are writing checks are on LinkedIn. So if you are in business to business, that's a really powerful one. You can target your message by industry, healthcare, by job title, head of human resources or operations, and by person if you want. I've stalked a lot of potential customers on LinkedIn. It's very powerful. YouTube is the second largest search engine, owned by the first largest search engine, which is Google. So the two of them work very closely together to determine how well you show up in search. And it's also social in that you can have followers, you can have your profile, you can optimize your videos for searches, and it can be a really powerful way to showcase your products or what you do. So if you have video, don't just save it for your website, make sure you're at least uploading it to YouTube as well. And Pinterest, this one is a powerhouse when it comes to conversions to sales. So 83% of Pinterest users have purchased something through the platform. But they might not purchase it right away, right? So people tend to use Pinterest to save something that they're aspiring to later. Like, this is the hair I wish I had. This is the stuff I want to make for my party. These are my Christmas things that I'm planning. This is the home I wish I had, the books I want to read, etc. So as long as you are prepared that somebody may pin it and save it for quite a while, it works great. Just don't do things like sale this Thursday, because that's not really how Pinterest works. And then I included some data on the two younger skewing sites that we work with the most, which is Snap and TikTok. Again, these are both skewing under 18 in terms of target audiences. The majority are 18 and under on both of them, actually. But TikTok is rapidly capturing a lot of time. So right now, the highest website in terms of time spent every day is Facebook. It's at 53 minutes. Instagram's at around 42, I think, right now. So that company captures a lot of time. But TikTok is already at 52. So they are quickly rising in the ranks in terms of time spent, and kids just spend a lot of time on it. I know we have a lot of TikTok conversations here at my house because my daughter and I are both on it, but she's on it a lot longer than I am every day. And key demos in Snap are 13 to 29 users, and advertiser return on investment is still really elusive on both these sites, unless you are selling, something to young folks and have some really great video in terms of presenting your content. So this isn't one I talk about as much, mostly because it's just not going to make a big difference for any of you on this call. You can also sell directly on social media, potentially. So it might be something that you want to do for Christmas. Like I showed up here, this is Archipelago, which is a gift shop here in Rockland, Maine, owned by the Island Institute. During the holidays in particular, they turn on a Shop Now button and actually take orders and manage it through Facebook, and then they turn it off again during other parts of the year. But for Christmas, and particularly during the pandemic, they've wanted to make that available to them. And then here on the left, this is a national food company that we work with, which is Good Beans Snacks and Benito's, the two national brands that we work with there. And we have the shop link directly in the Instagram profile so that people can actually just go and buy products directly from them. And here's another example of a pet store, the Loyal Biscuit with the Shop Now button. So those are things that you can do if you're interested in trying to take in some e-commerce and doing that. Here's an example of the Maine Crafts Association, which some of you may even be affiliated with. They have a link here from a site called Linktree that allows you to put in all kinds of links for shopping or just to send people anywhere else on it. And then they also break it down to include shop, which is all of the images that they have that are related to shopping and really driving traffic to their members. And here is YouTube showcasing products and different products that you can buy and different rooms that you can see the products in sort of in the right setting. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about before we start, before we leave is, while they aren't social channels, there are review sites or other sites that actually could be really important to you, depending on your kind of business. So last month, we talked to a few of you quite a bit about Etsy. Etsy was one that many of you manage a profile or a store on. And for some or many small businesses and crafters, Etsy is their primary website. Like it is the majority of where their business is conducted and where they upload photos and products every day. There are also eBay can be a big marketplace to sell on if you have individual products. There's also review sites like Yelp. This is Yelp here, and I'm showing you an optimized page for Yelp. It's not as heavily used here in Maine as it is in some of our other markets. I have a lot of customers in the San Francisco Bay Area, and they care about Yelp more than their website. Here on the East Coast, that doesn't really happen a lot north of, say, New York even. But it could be something that you want to make sure you understand. Do I have reviews on Yelp? Has anybody talked to me or inquired and I didn't know it? So make sure you look your business up on Yelp, claim your listing, and pay attention to it. But unlike other markets, this one just really isn't as huge right now. Now, now I know not all of you are in Lisbon. For markets that I have that are really tourist sensitive, like sometimes Bar Harbor, we work with people in Bar Harbor, Camden, Lincolnville, they care more about Yelp because a lot of tourists will use Yelp when they're visiting. They'll make decisions on where to go based on Yelp. So at minimum, you should know, am I there? Has anybody said anything about me? But if you have a chance to ask any of your customers for a review, and they're going to take a minute to leave you one, have them do it on Google, because that's the one that's going to actually pay off for you in terms of helping your business show up higher in search, and it will increase the relevance of your business so more people will see it. That's probably for any of you here in Maine, whether you're national or locally focused, Google's probably going to be the big one for you for reviews. And then just a few other channels to consider before we talk about the Dream 100. Your blog, if you have one, or if you're writing on any others. Email marketing, look at your templates, but also your list. Like, how healthy is your list? Like, have you been messaging these people? Is it all, is it a clean list? Is it working out okay? And then any other websites that you might have a profile on, like your Chamber of Commerce, any trade associations or groups that you're members of, Amazon, if you have an Amazon channel, Zillow or Realtor.com for those of you who are realtors, Angie's List and TripAdvisors are a couple other review sites that are related to home services primarily, as well as travel, and your own personal LinkedIn, just in case anybody checks you out. So make sure that your presence is all updated. We're working with one realtor right now who's a top performer. They sold 85 homes in the past 12 months, and the average realtor sells 20. But they really wanted to sort of up their game, and we found that they had a different website address on Zillow than they did on Realtor because they had changed companies and forgot to update it. And there was just incorrect information all over the place. And when we cleaned that up, their leads, they got 20% more leads. And I think it was just because they just kind of looked a little messy online. So that's kind of, that was a lot of information about your online presence. As I said, each of you will get an assessment this month and a report. They'll start coming out over the next several days and into next week, just in time for Thanksgiving, right? We'll make sure that each of you get a good note, and I can be happy to answer any questions individually about your presences when we do that. So before we wrap up, I have one other big thing that I wanted to talk to you about, because some of you are going to feel like, hey, my presence is great, and what am I going to do this month? Like, what's in it for me this month? And I have a stretch goal for you, and that is to consider your Dream 100 and measuring results. Like, these are the two things where it all comes together. So the first thing is measuring results. The biggest way that you can make sure that your marketing is going to work for you is to make sure that you look at the analytics. And I know that sounds really silly, but I can't tell you how many businesses will like start a Facebook page or post something or spend, an hour or two on it every week and then never look at the analytics side to see what's happening. So, and many people don't look at their Google Analytics to see what's happening on their website, and you really should. So one thing you should look at on your website is traffic by source. So how many people came to my website from Facebook or or the Lisbon Moxie site, or wherever else that your site is linked. That really shows you what's working to get people to your website. And that's important to know, especially if you spend a lot of time updating social media channels. You should know if it's working. So make sure you check your website traffic by source. And conversions. 100 people came to my website. Okay, how many of them bought something or signed up for your email list or signed up for your lead form to talk to you? Look at that ratio to try to get a sense of, hey, is my website actually selling anything? Is it helping me? On social media, each of the channels have a great admin panel to tell you how they're working. Facebook in particular is really, gives you tons of data about who's coming to your pages, what posts they're responding to, what time of day they're coming. All of that teaches you a lot about how you can turn dials to make it work better for you. You should look at how you're ranking on search. Like if you want to show up for something specific, like plumber in Lisbon, Maine, then search for that and measure how you're doing. And the report that I'm going to send you is actually going to give you some key tips there. With your email, make sure people are opening it and that you're not getting a lot of unsubscribes on your list. And bounce rate. And what bounce rate means is if I open your email and I click a link and then I leave immediately, or if I come to your website and I leave immediately, that means I got there and I didn't see what I expected to see and left. You don't want high bounce rates either in your website traffic or your email. And then finally, just think about how much time am I spending? How much time and money do I spend on marketing? And looking at your numbers, is it really providing the results that you're looking for? So measuring results is the key thing to making sure that your presence is working for you, because you'll know what's working and not working on each of your channels. And then the big question that I usually get is, I don't have enough people on my social media channel, or I don't get enough people on my website, or I wish more people knew about me and what I do or what I sell or my store. And to do that, one of the exercises that I go through with some of our premier clients that I work with directly is we go through the Dream 100 exercise. And there are 2 ways to do it. So I have 2 slides for you before we wrap up and go to questions today. The first one is traffic or referral. I need more people to know about me. I want more people to know about my website or my Facebook page or my Instagram channel or whatever it is that you're using as your primary. And the key thing to do here, or I got one earlier this week that was, I just started, so I don't have any fans. What do I do? In any of those scenarios, you come up with your Dream 100 list. And I'm actually redoing this for Dream Local Digital right now. So I do this for myself as well. And what you think about is, like, where do your customers hang out? Like, where is there any Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, community newspaper websites, maybe email subscribers? Like there's one email list called Maine Startup Insider. Like a lot of that's an email list where mine are. Are there any magazines? And if so, do the magazines have like a Facebook channel or an Instagram or wherever? So make a list of where your customers hang out, or who else sells to your customer and speaks their language. So I was thinking of Heather from True North Beauty when I was writing this slide today. And Heather sells skincare. And so she has a really good picture of who her target audience is. And remember, we talked about target audience last month. And if any of you missed last month, make sure you watch that recording. When you get a good picture of who that person is, it might not be just skincare that Heather wants to look at. It might be I'm making this up, but let's say she might identify that her target audience also loves Lululemon yoga pants, for example, or is into a particular influencer or a person that they follow. So think about who really gets the vibe of your customer, and then make yourself a list of the sites, any social media channels or emails that you could subscribe to, Are there any online stores, Etsy channels or anything like that? Make a list of them and then start following them, right? So you should spend 5 or 10 minutes a day really getting in the zone, looking at these people. Now, they could be a competitor, but they may also be something that's ancillary, like Heather's into skincare. It might be fitness or wellness. It might be health. It might be other types of makeup or lifestyle, right? Like it could be anything related. And then what you want to do is interact in the community. So we have one client that works with dentists. He does marketing for dentists. We found 2 Facebook groups where there are a lot of dentists, and we're getting between 20 and 30 leads a month for him by going into that group, posting relevant content, liking people's things like, oh, congratulations on opening the new practice. Here's 3 tips for setting up your website from me, that kind of thing. So think about how to, it's almost like putting a carpet, much bigger party to your front door for your party. That's the idea here. So think about creating your list. And the concept is called Dream 100. So you can Google it, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have 100 on your list. I actually have more than 100 on mine, but many businesses that we've worked with, like the agency I just described, I think we have 7 on his, right? So it doesn't have to be large, but it's just called the Dream 100. The second way to do this, and this is true for some of you who are really trying to grow your business, potentially you're a service business, or you have some target clients that would really be game changers for you. And this is creating your Dream 100 target customer list. And who are the potential customers that you would like? Is it you want your wholesale? We talked last month about a bakery that was shifting to wholesale. Are there target restaurants or other companies, stores that you want to have your product in? This is making your Dream 100 target customer list. Then introduce themselves to you on a regular basis. We have one sales rep on my team that he had a very large customer list. He was, emailing them all the time, or trying to stay in front of them all the time. And I finally said, okay, out of that like 4,000, like pick the top 100. Who's your Dream 100 out of that? And then why don't you send, once a month, send 10 of them a card, or try to like make a deeper connection with a smaller list than trying to scattershot with a big one. And his sales are up significantly since doing that. And that's something that you can read about over and over and over again online if you look for the Dream 100. And I've got a couple articles for you to check out. So think about your dream, either whether you're trying to get more people to find you, like referrals and traffic and fans on your channels would be the first one. Or if you know exactly who you want for your customers, maybe you're sending them a sample, maybe you're making a special holiday card just for the Dream 100 and sending a special note to them for Christmas. Think of different ways to touch them personally and intimately over, I would say 6 months to a year, and you'll find that your relationships are going to improve dramatically. So the Dream 100 is the last idea that I had for you in terms of your overall presence and how people see you. So with that, I wanted to, for inspiration, as I said, I've got a few articles for you on building your Dream 100. Here's 2 different approaches to that. And there's actually a couple great books that you could read that talk about that. One is .com secrets and one is traffic secrets. And cheapers. Then I've got 3 other articles for optimizing your presence if you were looking for some other quick tips there. Now, in terms of your homework this month, over the course of the next month, take a look at your online presence and see where you need work. Take a look at the audit that I'm going to email you and see if you have any action steps, or let me know if you have any questions. Think about making your own Dream 100 list, even if it's only got 20 on it. That's cool. Just think about that concept and a way that you could sort of set a goal for yourself. It gives you a nice target to shoot from. And I would say at least one on your Dream 100 list ought to be somebody you think you could never get, right? Like somebody that you just feels really far out of reach, because it will help you do your best work. And that always is going to provide best results. And then choose one social channel and start, or your email list. Either one's fine. Maybe social media isn't for all of you. I know for some of you it wasn't your strategy. Maybe it's email. You're going to start reaching a few people via email. So those are your homework assignments for this coming month. Our topic next month is going to be how to show up in search engines. Before we close for the night, does anybody have questions they want to talk about now, or anything on your mind that you want to talk about or ask?
Yeah, Shannon, you said something Google was free to register your business. I tried that like a few months ago, but they called me and it was like $450 or $499, and I got them down to like $150, but then I backed out of it. So it sounds true. How do I get it so it's free and not have to pay some fee?
Yes. So Google, their salespeople, bless their hearts, and they at times do call you individually, and they will try to sell you the advertising portions. So that's what I assume that's what they're talking about with you. If you have a proposal or anything from them, feel free to email it to me and I'll take a look at it for you. But the page that I talked about today, Google My Business, like think of it as your own profile on Google, is free. And the link that I have in the chat will allow you to do it for free and set it up. And it could have been that maybe you clicked a link that was the ad side, or maybe they just started to solicit you. Your basic presence, getting your photos up, reviews. I've got, one roofer that we get leads every month through it, and we're not paying them at all. So definitely take a look at that link. And then when I email you, either email me the proposal, or when I email you about your website, let's talk about that some more, and I'll make sure that that you get the right recommendation on what to do.
Yeah, I did the link as you were talking. So I'll see if they can give me that verified code. Last time they wouldn't give it to me. So they called me, and that's how that started. So I tried it again. I think I did it a month ago. I still got no verification code. I just did it again tonight on your link. So we'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed. And I wonder, usually when we run into that trouble, it's that somebody sees, they do the postcard and it accidentally gets thrown away. If we're not finding a way to get that connection for you, I can help. Like, we can call Google for you. So let's keep, if this time doesn't work with that link, let me know.
All right, thank you.
Just stuff. You got it, Chris.
With that too, Chris, I don't know that you've registered for the class. So if anybody else is on this this Zoom, shoot me an email and at brichardson@lisbonme.org, and we'll get you added to the list.
So how about you add to me list right now? And can you email me through my Lisbon account? Do you have that email address?
I don't have that one. Is that to the town?
Yep, I have a town email address. It'd be C Houston, Lisbon, Maine, wherever you guys have that.
Yep.
But it's all my stuff for the planning board. I'm trying to keep all that Lisbon stuff in one thing, because it gets lost in my other emails.
Yeah.
Can do.
Well, and that will make sure, that means I probably don't have an audit for you, Chris, but if Brett has that email address, then he can make sure you get copies of the presentations and everything else that you need. And for the rest of you, if you didn't have Brett's, I just put his email address in the chat window. So make sure you're on that list, and I'll make sure you get copies of everything.
I usually get copies, but the email gets lost, but Brett sends me. So I'd have to thumb back through hundreds of emails to try to find it. That's why we started to give us the actual Lisbon account, so I can keep track of all of my certain important stuff.
That's awesome. Good. Anybody else have questions that they want to go over tonight? If not, let me make sure you have my email. You'll all get an email from me, as I mentioned, or here's my email address, Shannon@DreamLocal. Brett, I'll share this presentation with you and make sure that you have a copy so everybody can have it. And I just really appreciate all of you guys being here today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
Got
See you
it.
next month.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Thank you.